Hello everybody and welcome to Poland Daily Travel from Krakow. I'm sitting in the southwest corner of the Great Square, the Rynek, the market square here in Krakow. And I'm sitting next to a bronzed replica, a very famous man, and a very essential man, to know. If you're talking about Krakow, his name is Piotr Skrzynecki. And I can tell you a story about my first trip to Krakow, which was a very, educational as well as dazzling trip. Quite a young fellow came over from England, and I was brought to his cabaret, the cabaret Pod Baranami, which existed in the Potocki Palace just here on the corner of the square, just a couple of doors down. It's no longer, I don't think it's any longer going, but the Piwnica Pod Baranami was an underground cellar, and it was a hotbed of satire and jazz and critical thought about the regime, carefully concealed as unassuming entertainment. I remember wandering in there, and there he was. I saw this funny fellow in a hat, always a big smile on his face, and usually with a drink in his hand. And he was comparing, which he did every night of his life from the founding of the cabaret Pod Baranami in the mid-1950s. I think it was 1956. They say that it was founded. Well, this was an extremely different time. 65 years ago, is it? Something like that. It's only a few years. Think back to when President Obama was president of the United States in 2010. Well, that's how close they were, or 2008. That's how close they were to World War II. So it was a very recent memory. And this fellow, I remember the jazz that was being played. He was compared, and he introduced this jazz. It was Janusz Muniak. It was an amazing fellow. His club is still on Florianska Street. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But Janusz Muniak, what a great guy. He was playing the saxophone, and it really was the most amazing Dixieland-style saxophone that I've heard outside of New Orleans. And not only that, he did a lot of all kinds of jazz, free jazz, you name it, and was an estimable fellow. And Janusz Smetana, another musician, who was a guitarist, was with him. And I remember taking a lot of photographs and being absolutely overwhelmed by the atmosphere of this club and of this man. So he's a great man. Hats off to him, at least a tip of the cap. It's a little bit cold to take the hat off today. And good on you, sir. It was nice to have met you once upon a time. We continue with our trip around Krakow.
Krakow, the ancient capital of Poland, this capital city on the Vistula River in Lesser Poland, remained the hub of the kingdom until the year 1596, a leading center in Poland of economic, cultural, artistic, and academic life. Its old town, with St. Mary's Basilica and the Old Cloth Hall, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There is an enormous amount to see in Krakow, but you have to start somewhere. And we're going to start at the beginning of the Royal Way. It stretches from Florianska Church, outside the ancient walls, through the Florianska Gate, to Wawel Hill, the origin place of the city known as Krakow. There on Wawel Hill, Krakow grew over 1,000 years ago from what had been a Stone Age settlement to a thriving hamlet. It's a fascinating place, and it would take a month or two, or even a lifetime, to really get to know this ancient city. So if you will, by way of introduction, let's take a walk along the royal route from St. Florian's Church down Florianska Street into the square, that fine Old Town Square which UNESCO has recognized as one of the living monuments of civilization. Let's wander along the route pausing to look at various quite stunning monuments until we find ourselves by the rolling Vistula River, under the Wawel Hill, near the cave of Krakow's legendary dragon. It's Krakow. It's Poland. It's Poland Daily Travel. Stay with us.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We've come from Mr. Skrzynecki and pod Baranami on the southwestern corner of the square to the southeastern corner of the square, and something quite different. We're going from 20th century legend to founding of Krakow, and a founding of the square anyway. There was a wooden church originally on this particular place. And this is the church of St. Wojtek or St. Adalbert, who is an extremely important saint in Poland, one of the most revered of all saints. I hope that St. Florian is not too competitive. This church is about 1,000 years old, and it is the oldest church in Krakow, if not the oldest continuous structure, which would be things relative to the castle. It's actually, the floor is actually a little bit lower than the market square, because it's been here so long and the square was built up around it. And you can see the sculpture over the top would be St. Adalbert. And he's got some cherubs, some winged cherubs helping him along. Ah, there's a nice carriage. It could be a good day to go for a ride if you had a nice rug covering your legs. I once almost froze to death in a sleigh coming down the mountain into Zakopane. At any rate, much more to see. Well, let's go around the corner and look at the cloth hall. I think it's worth seeing, don't you?